So an early version of the InkJoy 13.3-inch ePaper frame just arrived, and I basically want to unbox it and then take a quick look at some of the initial impressions and features of it, and perhaps compare it to some of the other ones on the market like the Bluminate or the Allura-Tech, for example, and just give a quick comparison of the imaging on it. Here's a quick sneak peek before we get into the unboxing, but it is a nice gold frame. And this is a project that's currently on Kickstarter. I believe they have about 20 days for the campaign to end, so I'll link that below if you're interested. And a USB-C to USB-C cable. Yeah, so art looks quite good. The reds are actually pretty good on here. I'm gonna have to compare them to some other ones. Nice blues here. Pretty good definition, especially around the tree here. A little temple over here. You can see it mounts pretty easily there. So Wavemorph, as you can see below, is an example of how InkJoy is pushing the limitations of Spectra 6. So instead of something like a flashing device that's pretty distracting and annoying, it turns it into more of a feature where it's very fluid like this. I did ask InkJoy, it's not going to be available on the 13.3 because it's using a different processor, and these three models should have it. So it looks quite cool, and I'm definitely excited to check that out at some point. As you can see, this is an exclusive patented technology that they will be implementing and using, and is something you don't see in the Spectra 6 market. You can actually share right here to the InkJoy directly in your gallery. So I'm gonna send that. The reason I'm comparing this image specifically is I've had it on the Bluminate for about 5 months. I want to leave it maybe another month to see if there's burn-in that happens on Spectra 6. I'll link that video here when it's ready, but that's the image we're going to look at comparing these two. You can see it's printing now and it should finish in just a second here. But first we must use the hand of zoom. So you can see they do look different. The reds specifically, the dithering patterns are very different here. There is a little more contrast out the box here, but this is overall probably a brighter image here. For those of you that aren't aware, the algorithms for dithering, which is how they combine colors, is very different on all of these devices that we'll talk about. So that does factor a little bit into the end result a little bit. Here's a little comparison to the Allura-Tech, and now I'll remove this and we can look at the Allura-Tech side by side with it too. The reds on the Allura-Tech do look a little closer to this than the Bluminate did, but the contrast actually seems higher on the Allura-Tech than on either the Bluminate or the InkJoy here. But both are producing pretty nice images here. Obviously this is not a final software, and I do want to play around with tweaking things a little bit to see how that changes the image. So I'll do that either in a live stream tomorrow or in a full review when I put that out. The difference between the Allura-Tech is that you can put it in a frame or take it out and keep it in its little panel here. I will say this is a really nice frame though, and I have somewhere in specific I think I want to put it. I think this is a pretty promising company, and like I mentioned, Dr. Ray Chen seems like he's going to be able to push some of the limits of Spectra and explore, so I'm curious to see what comes of that. You can check out the Kickstarter below, and like I mentioned, on Kickstarter you should always do your own research. If you want to see my review of the Allura-Tech ePaper frame, you can check that out here. Or if you want to see my Spectra playlist, you can check that out here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.